A very good afternoon. Welcome to Les Sables d'Olonne. It's day 35 on the racecourse for the Vendée Globe. We're 5 weeks in and this is Sunday. And today, well, the leader of the race, Charlie Dallin, is crossing the second Great Cape today, Cape Lewin. It's not really got that mythical history of Cape Horn or indeed the Cape of Good Hope, but it's a very welcome sight for Dallin and the leaders of the Vendée Globe. Dallin passed Cape Lewin this morning at 11:25 UTC, and he was going fast as if to answer any questions about potential problems on board. He's doing 21 knots. Meantime, just 67 miles behind, we have Thomas Rion and Yannick Bestaven. Yannick Bestaven has made up over 300 miles in the Indian Ocean. Now, our guest today on the English Live is Loick Peyron, the winner of the Route du Rhum in the past, a Jules Verne record holder, second in the 1989-90 Vendée Globe, and in the 2008-9 race he was leading for 16 days before he was unfortunately dismasted. But to us, Loick is simply the Jedi Master. Loick, welcome. How are you?
Well, good. I don't know if it's if you hear me. Do you?
Loud and clear, Loick.
Okay, because on my screen I'm frozen.
Okay.
Yes, happy to be with you today.
We're all good, I think. But it is Sunday morning, or it was Sunday morning today, and Armel Tripon on board L'Occitane on Provence. He was talking about his breakfast, and what else would you have on a Sunday morning? This is Armel Tripon this morning.
Hello, hello. Bon, bah, c'est dimanche. Et le dimanche, à Bamako, c'est jour de mariage, mais à bord de l'Occitane, c'est Byzance. Voilà. Alors, œufs sur le plat ou curry, café au lait, céréales, petit toast avec beurre salé. Voilà. C'est la petite touche bretonne au nord des îles Kerguelen. Logique. Voilà, dimanche bien froid et tout gris, mais rapide. Allez, bonne journée à tous, profitez bien.
Well, he is on his own. Curried eggs on a Sunday morning for lunch. You'd have to be on your own. Loick Peyron then. Loick, how are you? What do you think of this race then so far?
That's fascinating since the beginning. That's very interesting. I'm really diving in it every night, every hours. I'm following everybody since the leaders, from the leaders to the last one. And that's very, very interesting.
And we've got 10 boats within 400 miles. Did you ever expect that?
You never know what's going to be a race until the end, for sure. But 33, there were 33 at the start, which means quite a lot already. And the weather conditions are very interesting. They are bouncing sometimes. That there is a bit of bungee story. Those boats are quite fast, so they are able to reach the position of the leader from not so far from the leader very, very quickly. And that's interesting. That's a race. They are not so fast, I should say, compared to what we were expecting, because it seems that they are managing the material, managing the boats, and managing themselves.
Indeed, I mean, that opens the big question. There are quite a number of boats with no foils in the top 10. Is it foils or no foils? What's your view?
Oh, it's not a black and white story, for sure. It's not a binary answer. You never know. We know that the foils, the boats with foils, have this ability to accelerate, and it's not. Some of them are not easy to manage. You need to calm down sometimes. The thing is, I always say, maybe I'm wrong, but the best way to win a race is not to be. It is not to be the fastest, but is to never be the slowest one. I think that's the best way, mainly in offshore, on a long-term story like that. That's the average speed, which is interesting. And then a boat with foil have the ability to be super fast, but super uncomfortable, sometimes with a lot of shocks and vibration and maybe some readability problems. So we have the proof that you can do a very, very good soup in an old pot.
Indeed. I mean, you see the problems where we lost PRB and Alex Thompson on Hugo Boss had structural problems. Do we need to build the boats stronger?
It's never. I don't know any skippers or any naval architect who is aiming to build the boat which is going to break. But as you know, that's a competition story, and then you have to choose. You have a lot of trade-offs between readability, structure, weight, efficiency, speed, and whatever. And in the case of Hugo Boss, the structural problem was one problem, but not the major one. In fact, what the main issue was to hit something with the rudder. In the case of PRB, there is a bit more of a mystery, and there is no black box like in a plane, and even if there was one, it's now quite far under the level of the sea. So it could be very interesting to hear what are going to be the analysis of what happens on PRB.
We look forward to that. Loic, we'll come back to you in just 1 second. Let's look at the standings, the ranking at midday. And as we said, Charlie Dallin is still out in front. His lead is 67.4 miles. Just 2.1 miles behind is Yannick Bestaven. Damien Seguin is in fourth. He's 183 miles behind Bestaven. And then there's just 1 mile between Damien Seguin and Jean Le Cam in fifth. 12 miles further back is Benjamin Dutreux in sixth. Louis Burton is 15 miles behind Dutreux in seventh. Then there's a 60-mile gap back to Boris Herrmann in eighth, 19 miles to Isabelle Joschke, and then Giancarlo Padotti, our Italian skipper, is in 10th, and he's 11 miles behind Isabelle Joschke. In 15th, Alan Rura has been going quick this morning. In fact, he's one of the quickest over the last 24 hours, making 400 miles on La Fabrique. Then Pip Hare is now 18th, Didac Costa 19th, and there's only 12 miles between them today. 21st, Kojiro Shiraishi. 22nd, Alexia Barry is 11 miles up on Miranda Merin, and Ari Husela is in 27th. And Ari Husela this morning was doing 17.9 knots on board the Stark. So that's the classements just now, the standings at midday. Let's go back to Loic. And just, Loic, who's been outstanding for you in this race so far?
I should say in terms of how do you say that, trajectory. I like the way Jean is sailing as an old folks. He knows how to be smooth like that, and it's pretty interesting to see that on the map. One who is really impressive is Isabelle. Isabelle Joschke is doing something very interesting. She was super calm, super preserving everything at the beginning of the race, maybe a bit too much. That's what she could think today, but I think she's doing very well. Sometimes she's the fastest of the fleet, but all depends on the wind for sure. But I like the way she's doing, really. And that's interesting also to see that when Jeremy at the back of the fleet, the poor guy, is going back for sure very quickly. But that's interesting to see that I have the feeling that each time he is passing one boat, those guys at the back of the fleet have a bit like of a motivation to go a little faster than they used to. And that's quite interesting to see.
And you watch Jean Le Cam now. Obviously, you look a lot younger than Jean and are much younger. Does that inspire you to think about? Are you envious of his race just now?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes when you have a look at those marvelous footage we have, and especially the very nice breakfast of the Sunday breakfast of Armel. Yes, for sure. By the time you've been there, you'd like to go back again. But it's always a trade-off between going back there and having the level, physical level, and all the skills able to win or to fight for the win, or just to do that for the pleasure of being there. But that's not always a pleasure to be there, to be frank. So I'm happy here.
What was the pleasure for you? What was it you liked most about the Vendée Globe?
The first one, as you know, I start 3 times. I've done 3 Vendée Globes, but then only finished 1. And the only one I finished was the first one 30 years ago. Looks like, huh? and that's the marvelous footage of the arrival in Les Sables d'Olonne. And one of the best souvenirs was that because that was the first one. And the first one was there was no limit in the south, so we've been sailing through the ice. Some of us, like Jean-Luc Vandenette and myself, who were super south, super frightening, and that's such an experience to do. And whatever the year, I should say, even today, and every 4 years, you have a bunch of guys like that, women and men, able to discover the other end of the earth, and that's unique, in fact.
And what's your view on this race? I mean, this race, we have the skippers conversing with each other on WhatsApp. They stay in touch with their friends and families and their team at home on WhatsApp. And we have the ice barrier. It's a very different game now.
Yeah, we had no limit. We had a minimum, at this time, 30 years ago, there was no satellite. No phone satellite. And then that was only the radio, the BLU, and that was a little less practical. But in fact, that's interesting that by the time we were in the south, in the Indian Ocean and the Pacific, we used to talk together on a private channel on the radio. And that was not the case on the way down because we were racing. That was the case in the Inferno area, especially after the Poupon story, you know, when he capsized and I helped him to resize his boat. And then by the time we passed the Horn, there was not any more conversation. The race was back again. At this time, the South was really, let's say, dangerous. It is still dangerous, but they are still racing.
Indeed, it does engender a nice solidarity between the skippers. I think for the first timers down there, it certainly feels a little bit safer for them when they can converse with boats round about them.
Yeah, for sure. That's part of the game. Hopefully, we know that we have, in any case, and we had the proof again with Jean and Kevin. But that's the beauty of the sailing area, and not only around the world. We all know that each time there is a problem for someone, we are here.
Indeed. And indeed, our direction course watch the skippers all the time. Look, I'll come back to you in just 1 second. A ray of sunshine all the time from the Southern Ocean is our own Pip here on board Medallia, and she really is loving every minute of her race so far. How are you, Pip?
Hey, Andy, I'm good. Yes, very good, thank you. Just creeping over that hump in the ice limit, which is quite nice.
Good for you. And what's the weather like now?
It's like just grey. It's proper, really light breeze, about 4 to 5 knots. The sky is just pure white. Sea's quite flat, and we're just kind of creeping along. Really, it's very inauspicious.
So you're not really getting the full Southern Ocean experience, are you?
No, this is like I telling me all about it. You know, I just wonder whether they were winding me up. I'm sure it's saving up the best for us later. I'm sure it is.
Well, how are you anyway? You're enjoying it nonetheless. You don't seem to have had that day yet where you just wish you weren't there.
No, I haven't. I mean, sure, there's always times when, you know, you just think, oh, this is great, isn't it? I'm cold and I'm wet and I'm comfortable. But actually, no, this is what I've wanted to do for my whole life, and I'm doing it. And so, you know, I just think I owe it to me and to everyone to make the most of every minute that I can. So I'm still happy.
Pip, I would say that on day 36, you look better than I do.
Well, do you know what the trick to that is? It's don't sleep very much and only wash once a week if you're lucky.
I've certainly been washing more than you, but I think we've probably been sleeping about as much.
It's tough. So I saw DDAC this morning on AIS.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing race. It just goes on and on, doesn't it?
I know, and I just think, you know, it's always been the way, hasn't it, in ocean racing, but the fact that we can get this far around the world and we're within 5 miles of each other, and, you know, I just think it's incredible. It's such good sport.
I'll tell you another thing, Pip, is that your time, I think, to Good Hope is almost exactly the same time as Alan on the last race.
Is it really? That's incredible, isn't it? It's so interesting. I guess I'm a little bit slower now, though, after this last week.
And listen, do you have much contact with England?
Yeah, a fair amount. You know, I have, it's so easy on WhatsApp, and so, you know, I've got friends and family keeping in touch with me, but it's interesting. You know, I want to hear news of what's happening at home. That you know, bigger picture stuff I'm not that interested in because it's, you know, I've suspended that part of my life. But it's more like just the day-to-day stuff that what people are doing, that they're having fun, and most of the messages I get are rude. So that's good.
Most of the messages that Pip here gets are rude, she tells us. Loic, I mean, it's amazing to see Didac and Pip racing boats which are 20, 21 years old alongside each other.
That's very cool. I think that's the beauty also of the Vendée Globe. In fact, you can do it whatever the level and in a different level, in the different ways. And in any case, you're going to do a round the world trip, which is quite unique. And I like the way Pippa is sailing, I should say, sailing for herself, sailing for the friends and for everybody else. But she's in a really good mood and keeping every minute of her life right now, whatever they are, if they are bad or good. And that's the way you have to do the Vendée Globe, in fact. Because if you suffer, you have no reason to complain because you choose it yourself.
Absolutely, I think that's the point. And she is another skipper who came up from the minis. And if you go across the Atlantic in a mini, you can pretty much put up with anything.
Yes, yes, you're right.
So tell us, Loic, what are your own plans? Do you have any sailing plans for the future?
I'd like to cross the Atlantic again, I should say, but this time with my family. So they're delivering a marvelous Outremer catamaran from the south of France, where they are built in La Grande Motte, to the other side.
When would that be?
Next year, because for a lot of reasons, and the boat is not ready yet. That's for a private owner, and maybe in the beginning of the year and the next year, yes, in the falling trade winds, beginning of spring. And then what else? No, not a lot of racing stories. I'm gonna have the chance to sail a bit on the new trimaran, the big Ultime Banque Populaire, I hope, with my friends of the team. And some other details. Yes, as you maybe know, I'm the captain of the SSL French team for the next Star Sailing League Association, and what else, and some other stuff.
And where do IMOCA need to go next with foils and technology?
It's a push forward. That's interesting. Again, everybody is talking about that since many weeks now, by the fact that the foiling monohulls are, as they are today, are not exactly the best answer to the big problem which is around the world trip. They might be the good answer for a transatlantic race, but solo. Are they the best answer for that? Maybe not. Not all of them. The pity is that Armel and he is quite back, but he have a different shape of foils, which are a little more progressive in answering. And I'm pretty sure all the designers and the skipper are going to work a lot to improve in the designs.
Good, I hope so too. Anyway, Loic, thank you so much for joining us on our English Live. Hopefully we'll have a chance to catch up somewhere nice over the next year. Thank you,
pleasure.
Loic.
Thank you, Eddie.
So that is Loic Peyron. Now then, let's have a look at the weather situation. No big systems affecting the fleet, which in effect is all the way between Cape Lewin and Cape of Good Hope. And looking at the whole fleet then this Sunday, starting off, basically here we have Cape Lewin and all the way back to the Cape of Good Hope. The most obvious thing to see just now is no big lows down in the south underneath the ice barrier. So it's a relatively stable weather pattern dominated mainly by these high pressures. First of all, looking at the front of the course with the leaders approaching Cape Lewin just now, we just see this low pressure here just dropping down, and the leaders are just behind it. They're actually just catching the back of it. So they're getting some strong south-southwesterly winds, which will just allow the leaders to ease clear of the chasing peloton just a very little bit. So that's what's happening just now. Further back, in the fleet, well, nothing too much to report here for Clarice Kramer and Roman Atanasio. They're in a northwesterly flow, 12 to 15 knots, something like that, nothing too much for them. Armel Tripon finding it a little bit tough, more towards the centre of the high. He's had very unsettled winds, but quite light. But he's having an extraordinary course, really just pushing along the ice barrier as much as possible. We'll see that a little bit more in the routing in just a second. And further back here, we're looking at Pip Hare and Didac Costa, just in the middle of the high pressure system back here. And again, they're having it fairly light, almost summer-like in some respects for Pip when we spoke with her. And then further back underneath, or just across Cape of Good Hope, Ari Husela is routing quite far to the north, sailing super safe. That's his priority. And then down here we have this group with Miranda Merrin, with Alexia Barrier, Jeremy Bayou and co. And they're having it, they're in kind of northwesterlies just now, and fairly decent breezes for them, but nothing too troublesome for them. So that's the whole fleet this Sunday. Now let's have a look at the animation now. And if I just nip round here and hopefully just grab it and stop it, we'll see. So this is this low pressure here, just underneath the Australian Bight. And there's Charlie Dallensey just catching the back of the low. He should be able to ease clear very slightly. Now the key thing here actually is this is not the limit, the ice limit. It's not so much governed by the ice. This is really about the rescue limit for the Australian Rescue Services. That's why it's a very much more of a straight line here. And then now we can get down further into the south, as we'll see. So let's just watch this routing now for the leaders. I'll just run that in 1 second. And this is looking into this week and see how it goes. So this is Monday. I'd say we're just at the back of this low. High pressure developing here, which is going to catch these the peloton, the group behind, but really nothing too much, not too strong winds as they approach the ice gate. Now it's really about slaloming along, jibing along the ice gates in downwind conditions. And so it should be fairly straightforward week for the leaders in particular. A little bit more problems here with the high pressure back here for this group, but to say no big winds, no big situations just now, all the way through the fleet. So indeed, fingers crossed for a relatively quiet week ahead for the Vendée Globe fleet. Now Damien Sagan is going extremely well in fourth place. Damien is also a skipper who had one or two problems at the early part of the week. He's overcome them, and we spoke with Damien earlier on.
It's a really nice day. Sunday is a good day for me because all the week was, especially Monday and Tuesday, was really terrible for me. I had many problems with my autopilot and energy problem on the boat, but we fix it all the week. I work a lot, and now Sunday I just have to sail on my boat and nothing other to think. So it's perfect. Conditions are very good for sailing. There is no waves. It's not flat, but the waves are really minimum. And the wind is about 13 to 15 knots, and the boat is going very, very fast. So I have all my set of sail, the full mainsail and the Jai one in front. So it's really nice. We had some sun this morning, but it's cloudy this afternoon. But it's nice conditions. Yeah, Jean is just behind me, and it's really nice to sail with Jean because I know him very well. Our two boats were in the same shade this winter. Very close in the port, and we sail very close in this Vendée Globe, so it's really nice. Jean, it's like a father for me, so I'm really happy to sail behind him. His name is a king, Jean, and it's really a king. Yeah, Jean is it's a really nice person. So when he talk about sailing boats, oh, his eyes are like children's eyes. He's dreaming. It's terrible. It's really nice to speak with him about everything on the boat. You know everything on this kind of boat on IMOCA. Yeah, Jean is it's a good friend for me. In one day, I will cross the Cap Lewin. So wow, it's magic because as I told you, Monday and Tuesday, I can't imagine I can continue racing because the problem was terrible on the boat. And now I'm fourth and I'm close to Australia. So it's a dream, really, it's a dream for me.
Indeed, a dream for Damien Sagan, who's rapidly becoming one of the stars of this Vendée Globe. He is only a mile or 2 miles apart from Jean Le Cam, who he said is like a father to him. He's talking about Jean Le Cam. He said when Jean Le Cam talks about boats, his eyes light up like children's. That's all we have time for today on this Vendée Globe Live. If you have any questions, do post them on our social network channels, on Facebook, on Instagram, or indeed on Twitter. Join us tomorrow. Our guest will be TBA, to be agreed as yet. But do join us then at 12:30 UTC and 13:30 here in France.